All right, hey, we're gonna make a preset patch for Massive here, kind of a dubstep vocal kind of sound. Check it out. It's gonna sound like this. All right, if you notice, all the macro controls are programmed. We'll kind of talk about that a little bit and think about all this. This is part of the new Sonic Drive Media's patch set. Check it out. You can buy it at sonicdrivemedia.com. Let's start from scratch and go to the main page, synth page here. Pull up a new sound. And let's start off. The first oscillator is going to be Modern Talking. And we're going to go down just one octave on that, and we're going to move the wavetable position to about there, and intensity to about there. And oscillator 2, we're going to do a sine triangle wave, and wavetable position there, intensity to about here, and we're going to move that down 2 octaves. And that will be kind of our sub-frequency kind of sound. Both of these are going to be going to filter number 1, and if we go to filter 1, we'll turn that up to serial, although it doesn't really matter, I guess. We're going to turn off filter 2, and filter 1 we're going to use a scream filter. And let's see, so we're going to turn the cutoff all the way up, scream just up a tiny bit, and the resonance down a little bit. Alright, the main aspect of this sound is this Modern Talking oscillator. If you notice, the wavetable position really gives it the kind of vocalized sound there. Alright, so then we're going to add just a few other things. We're going to take it and add a little classic tube. We're going to turn that down a little bit, drive it about 1/4. And then we're going to add the dimension expander here. We're going to do about 1/4 for each of those. Widen it out a little bit. And then we're going to go over LFO 5, and we're going to put that, we're going to drag it over to the wavetable position, push it up a little bit till it gets. If you notice the rates change and all that, and then we're going to do the same thing for this cutoff, and we're just going to push it up a little bit. And then one thing is this X fade curve. We're going to go for the sine wave sound. Although, of course, you can mess around with these. There's a lot of good other shapes to go with. For this actual patch, for the vocal kind of mouth sound, it's the sine wave kind of, this rounded curve, I guess you would call it, is a good one. Hey, there it is. And that is the bulk of the sound right there already. It only took a second. But then to make this a little wider of a sound, a little more interesting sound, we're going to add a few other things here. This sine shaper is a cool kind of device. It's like distortion basically. Actually, before I talk about that, let's go back to this rate. And a good way to set your rate on things, so my tempo here is at 140, and I just have this kind of simple beat going, dubstep kind of beat. I'm going to go over to the macro control and just hit clear macro 1. That'll clear all the basic thing on there. But I'm going to drag it over to this, the rate, and I'm always going to use macro 1. On all the presets in this pack, macro 1 is always assigned to the rate. That way, I'll show you in a minute that you can do use your mod wheel to always do the rate for the LFO. So if we hit play on the drum beat, we're going to set the slowest speed and the fastest speed. So check it out. So that's good for the kind of slow speed. Now if we'll turn the macro 1 all the way up, and as we push this up, we'll see how fast we want to bring it. There it is. So now in the macro, fast and slow. They're kind of synced in a way, but they're not truly synced, but they're going at a rate that sounds pleasing and whatnot. So there it is. Oh yeah, so then what you do also on this macro is you right click on it again and hit MIDI learn, and then I'm gonna, on my keyboard, I'm just gonna do the mod wheel up and down, and then as you're playing, you can really kind of control that with your mod wheel. It makes playing a little easier and more fun. Here's a couple other things we'll do. We'll go to the voicing, or actually the oscillator. We'll do the pitch shift, pitch bend up 12 and down 12. So when we're you can kind of mess around with that. Voicing, of course, unison, or let's do monophonic and legato. All this stuff is interesting to mess with, but we're not going to do that right now. Let's also go down to insert 2 here, turn that on, and let's bit crush this, and let's crush it real good. Oh yeah, so if you notice, filter 1, the insert 1 is after filter 1, and this insert 2 is after filter 2, but we're not using filter 2, so that, as you can tell, it doesn't do anything. So we need to either put it over here before filter 1 or after filter 1. There it is. Let's put it after there. And you can also mess around. Be careful with this feedback if you're using that. Let's just turn the bit crush down, and let's think about that feedback. Here it is. Get some real gnarly sound with that. So here's something that all with all these presets that I have for sale I automated all these, or I have all the macro controls assigned. So like I would take number 2 here and crank it up. So now we can crank it up quite a bit. And as we're playing that, now you have control over that with your macro controls. And I did that mainly, just, you know, it just makes things easier when you're automating. It's always just the macro control as opposed to all these random other things. So you could open up a different massive, and you could always have the same automation channels and stuff. It just makes it a lot easier. Here's a couple other things you can do to make it a little more full sound. We'll just add just a touch of white. Kind of gives it a little harmonic kind of sound. And then this modulation oscillator, we're going to bring that down an octave, down -12. Turn that on oscillator 1. And if you notice, this one gets a real crazy sound too. So we'll do the same thing with that and assign a macro to that just so it goes up. Hardly need any of that. You kind of lose track of the the talking sound of it when you're using that, but it makes a whole different sound, which is kind of cool. And you turn some distortion on. That's pretty dope. All right, and that's about it. Let's see. Yeah, so now if you notice, you know, that's the bulk of the sound. You can download this patch, or what this patch is based off of, the finished patch at sonicdrivemedia.com. And then I have a whole patch of, or a whole bank of patches that you can purchase for cheap. And you'll have a whole bunch of sounds you can mess with. And so stick around. I'm about to demo all of them, so check it out. So here's the whole bank. I already installed it. There's kind of install notes on how to install it in here, but you could open it up from any place. You could just hit File and Open Sound, and if it's on your desktop, you could scroll through it. But you could just find these folders, the native instrument folder, which is in your shared content folder, which is usually in your documents folder. There's directions that it comes with on where to actually stick this folder, but you basically just copy the folder and throw it in there. And once it's in there, they're all lined up here. They're all kind of listed. I filled it all out so you have, you know, there's a bunch of basses. There's only about 4 sound effects, and there's 2 lead sounds. But let's just kind of run through them. I'll play each one, and if you notice, all the macro controls are there, so I'll just kind of be playing through this stuff and see what it sounds like. Let's turn on some drums. Alright, here's another one. Bass melter. This one's fun, Gorgor. And this one I just made it as gnarly as possible. And so some of the effects, like this one, is kind of interesting. It's just a big building sound. Check it. So it's just kind of going up, but you can manipulate all those. These lead sounds. Interesting. Most of them, as I said in the previous little video, all the LFOs are synced, or are programmed usually, not synced. They're not all synced, but using the macro 1. But some of them, like this one, is not. It's using a performer kind of LFO to kind of run it. So so you get that. Here's another one. And here's the one we were just doing. All finished with everything in there. A couple others. It's a pretty big one. Here's another sound effect. Just kind of a little laser sound, kind of cool. Alright, so that's the general idea. There's 31 things in here. Check it out, sonicdrivemedia.com. Alright, check you on the next one.